Joining us now, candidate, Democrat, House of Delegates. She's also a member of the school board in Newport News, challenging David Yancey, the incumbent Democrat, Shelly Simonds. Good to have you with us, Shelly.
Oh, it's great to be here. Good morning, everybody.
Now, I tell you what, you're running a very enthusiastic campaign. No doubt, I get a ton of emails that you send out, and you're pretty fired up. But David's a pretty tough candidate. He's been there 2 terms, got reelected last time by a smaller margin than people thought he would, but he's raised a lot of money, and I guess common thought is, okay, if you can't knock David off during the 2013 McAuliffe romp, how could you possibly beat him in an off-cycle election?
Well, I think you do it by being really well organized. I decided to enter this race real early on, and we really took a lot of the enthusiasm from the Warner campaign and spun it right into our race. We already have over 250 activist volunteers working on the campaign with us, and we've knocked on 20,000 doors, and I personally have knocked on over 4,000 doors. So we really have the energy and the excitement on our side, and this is a small election. We really only need 8,001 votes to win, and we can get there just by meeting people. And frankly, my opponent doesn't really have much of a field presence. I haven't really seen him knocking on doors here.
How many do you need to win? How many votes?
I think we need about 8,001 votes to win.
Okay, and so you haven't seen much of David. We're going to try to get him on in the next week or so. But what Senate district are you in? Whose Senate district?
It's entirely in Senator John Miller's Senate district.
Okay, so you have an edge there, right? Because Miller is going to win that big, and I know that the Republican there is a good guy. I haven't had a chance to meet him. I've heard good things about him, but I call it like it is. Miller is going to win that in the romp, so that's going to help. But what inspired this race, other than you want to be a House of Delegates member, right? We all understand that. But what is there one thing that you just got up one day and said, I want to change this, and decided to run? What is it?
Well, really what it was is, I had some experiences on the school board where I did go up to the General Assembly to lobby David to vote on certain bills and against some of the Bob McDonnell education initiatives that he brought up from Louisiana, the A to F and the OEI. And he voted for him anyway. And then, hearing from some of my friends, women in town, who had asked him to please vote against the ultrasound bill, please vote against personhood, please respect our personal liberty, our individual freedom, don't tread on our freedoms. And he voted for those anyway. And, I think the last straw was watching the Medicaid expansion debate and knowing how important it was for the city of Newport News. I mean, we could have had 2,000 low-income working people get some health care coverage with Medicaid expansion, and I know that Riverside Hospital executives lobbied him hard, and he just wouldn't vote for that either. So at the end of the day, it's like if you're not going to stand up for the citizens of Newport News, who are you working for?
All right, now wait a minute though, Shelly. In all candor, I mean, are you guys now back on the same war on women mantra that is this? I mean, that's like a fiddle that keeps playing over and over and over. I mean, are you guys are you back on that now?
Not really. I mean, it is. You asked me what inspired me to run, and I'm just going to be honest and say that it was in the mix of that. The thing that when I go door to door, I think voters are very concerned about is just government spending, making sure that they're being responsible with our taxpayer dollars. And one of the things that I'm hearing about is people are very upset with all of the money wasted on the Route 460 project. And, David Yancey has been on the board of the HRTPO, and while serving on the board, which is supposed to provide oversight for transportation projects, he took thousands of dollars in donations from the construction industry, which benefited from the $300 million debacle that we had there. And not a single inch of road has been paved, and millions of taxpayer dollars have been wasted. And, he supported the project even after the governor had ordered it to be stopped. And I think it's just a real example of waste and the influence of big money in politics and, David Yancey not showing up. He missed half of the HRPTO board meetings as well. So, it's a real weakness that he has. And, I just want to make sure we have a leader up there who's really going to pay attention and follow the money and ask the tough questions about projects like this.
Okay, so let's be sure our listeners understand what you just said, because we throw a lot of acronyms out, and sometimes you're in the car driving or you're listening on the internet and you're going, well, what the heck is the HRTPO? What is that?
Mm-hmm. The Hampton Roads Transportation Planning Organization.
Okay, and that is outside of the General Assembly, right?
Yes. That is a regional transportation planning group.
Right. So what you're saying is that David, if I understand what you're saying correctly, was a member of that group, right? An appointed member of that group when they voted on the Route 460 expansion. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying that after the Daily Press and the governor called them out that the project was a huge waste of taxpayer money, then they took a vote to continue the project.
And so you're saying that when they took that vote, David was on that committee, and he voted to continue with that?
Yes,
okay.
They did.
And what is the time frame of that, Shelly? Because this, what you're making is a pretty you're bringing up a pretty serious issue. So I'm not challenging you on it. I'm just trying to get to the bottom of it. So
March 2014, they had a board meeting and they took a vote to support the project.
And that was after a litany of questions on it were being asked, right?
Yes.
So it's not like it's not like that vote was taken and no one had any idea that they didn't get the approvals from the Army Corps of Engineers, right? All the stuff that we've heard. So they voted to continue on with that, and they continue to fund it through taxpayer dollars after they had info saying that the whole thing was suspect, right?
Yes, they voted to continue to support the project, and David Yancey was not asking the kind of tough questions that I would want my delegate to be asking if there were millions of taxpayer dollars on the line, because he's working, he's supposed to be working for the people, not for these big corporations who contribute to candidates.
One of the other things that you said is that David was receiving campaign contributions from construction companies. Were any of those construction companies tied to this 460 project?
Well, they created a PAC, as is happening more and more, the Virginia Construction Transportation Alliance. And one of the major contractors was a major donor to that PAC. And
can you tell us who?
It was American Infrastructure.
Really? Interesting. So what you're saying is that American Infrastructure donated to the Political Action Committee that donated to David Yancey's campaign, and that was one of the companies getting paid on the Route 460 debacle.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay. Now, tell us, Shelly, one of the challenges, and I asked the same question to one of your colleagues just the other day. One of the challenges is the Democrats are not going to win control of the House, right? It isn't even going to be close. So if you win, you get in the minority. And maybe there's 33 or there's 34 or 35. But at the end of the day, you can't really get anything done because you're in a super minority. So there is an argument to say, look, the Republicans are in charge. David has seniority. So probably if he's there within the majority, he's got more clout in order to get things done. How do you respond to that? Because that's a reality of the situation, right?
Well, I think that really what we need in Richmond, we need everybody to get back to the middle and stop being on the extremes. And there are a lot of common sense issues that we all agree on. And I would say workforce development is one of those issues. And as a school board member, we've made a lot of progress there. It's not hard to go and ask local businesses what skills they want workers to have. And the minute I got on school board, I was meeting with Newport News Shipbuilding and Canon to find out what those skills are. A lot of it is computer programming and high-level math. And when I get to the General Assembly, I'm going to be pushing those STEM skills. And I think there's a lot of agreement there. So when you're trying to make progress on something that we all agree on, I think it's going to be a lot easier. And by talking to different educational organizations, you can find out, exactly what nitty-gritty piece of legislation that they would like introduced. And I'm going to be active. I'm going to be asking those questions and bringing those solutions to the General Assembly.
If you were up there, what would be the first thing that you would do, Shelly, to reach across the aisle? Because as you just said, you've got to govern from the middle. You can't get anything done without Bill Howell and their leadership team. So, I mean, look, if you're a new Democrat that gets elected and you become as partisan as the other side, it's a complete waste of time, in my judgment. So what is Shelly Simonds going to do? How are you going to reach across the aisle? What's your approach going to be to be able to actually make an impact? For instance, we saw Monty Mason, good guy, got up there, beat Mike Watson, hasn't been able to get anything done. Why? Not because he's ineffective or he's a good leader, because he's in a super minority. So how is Shelly Simonds going to be different?
Well, I'm going to be asking, what are the needs in the 94th district? And if it's, a nurse telling me that she wants me to introduce legislation to make it a crime to attack a nurse or a medical professional in a hospital, that would be something I would investigate and look into, whether it be, the new advanced integrated manufacturing program that they're introducing with New Horizons Career and Technical Center. And if they come to me and they say, Shelly, we need some legislation to make sure that students can be covered under workers' comp. I'm going to be listening to my constituents, and they're going to have nonpartisan ideas for me that are problems that they really have, that they really need solutions to. And it's not going to be Shelly Simonds, generating a bunch of, partisan ideas. It's going to be listening to the community and finding out what the real people of Newport News need to get done.
Wow, listening to voters. What a novel idea. I love that. If just somebody would do that, it would be so much fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, I tell you, that has been, for me, serving on school board, that has been the joy of being an elected official. It's when people come to you and say, hey, Shelly, we need to do something about summer. We've got kids downtown. They're not doing anything. We've got horrible crime rates over the summer. Let's do something. And then I take that idea and I try to build consensus, on the school board about it. And I wrote an editorial a year ago in the Daily Press and built consensus about it. And now this year we actually did it.
All right,
made
Shelly,
progress.
we're out of time. I got to get out. Bottom of the hour. I want you to give out your website.
Oh, it's www.shellysimons.com.
Okay, ShellySimons.com. Thanks for being with us.